Hello and welcome to the Bestseller Experiment, where we continue to discover what makes a bestseller and inspire you to start, finish and publish your book. I'm Mark Stay, and Mr. D is away this week, having a well-earned vacation. He's gone camping, which is, I'm reliably informed, something that people do for fun. No, really, I looked it up on Wikipedia. Rather than waffle on alone this week, I thought I would invite a guest to keep me company and hold my hand for the next 45 minutes or so. And it's not the first time she's been on the show. She's popped in for a cameo in the past, but today she's here for the whole shebang. So please welcome gardener, actor, YouTuber, writer, and my lady life partner, better half, Claire Burgess.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello, my dear. How are you today?
No kissing.
No kissing. No. Keep it professional. Keep it professional and above the waist. I've dragged you away from your edits. This is normally the time of the day when you're editing your book.
Well, actually, now is normally the time where I make dinner. At the moment, I edit first thing in the morning before I go to work. So,
okay.
Yes, I do sort of half an hour from 8 till about 8:30, because then at 8:30 I need to make my lunch and then be out the door at 8:45 to go to work. So at the moment, that's the time that I do it, because I'm far too knackered when I get home from work to do it.
You were doing bits in the afternoon, weren't you? Or did I dream it?
I think you dreamt it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That shows how much.
So,
already got off to a good start.
Sometimes I do, but it depends. If it's the weekend, then yes, I will. But Monday to Friday, I will edit and go through stuff first thing in the morning.
See, I don't see that because I'm writing down here.
Exactly.
We're both early birds, aren't we?
Yes.
You know, like to fresh mind in the morning. Okay, cool. Well, it's kind of appropriate that you're on the podcast today because our guest is the other half of someone we've already had on the show. And today's special guest is Adam Simcox, who is author of The Dying Squad. Now, his partner, Kirsty Eyre, who wrote the book Cowgirl, first appeared on episode 248. We'll put a link in the show notes to that. That was the comedy Women in Print episode as well. Adam is a London-based filmmaker who shot commercials and music videos for Britpop veterans. He's written and directed 3 feature films, the first of which was sold to Netflix. And now he's written a novel. The Dying Squad is Adam's debut novel and the first in a series published by Gollancz. And we discuss writing for the screen and novels, mood boards, writing to music, commissioning reader reports, self-belief, writing with your significant other, I might talk about that later, and top tips for book trailers. So let's jump in and listen to my conversation with him now. Adam Simcox, welcome to the Bestseller Experiment. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me. I'm properly excited.
Good. I'm excited too. This is very exciting because you're not the first member of your household to be on the podcast, are you?
I'm not. My wife really cheap-shotted me and got in there first about 18 months ago. Kirsty Eyre, yeah. She was a big comedy in print winner. And so, she beat me to publication as well, the cow. So it's really
That's episode 248, listeners, if you want to hear the more successful half of this partnership. No, well, Adam, this is fantastic to speak to you because we're here to talk about your new book, The Dying Squad, your debut novel, The Dying Squad, which is published by Gollancz, which just looks amazing. Give us the quick précis on that. It's such a great high concept. Where did it all come from?
No worries. Well, the quick one-line elevator pitch is The Dying Squad is about a police detective who has to solve his own murder. So Joe Lazarus storms a Lincolnshire farmhouse intent on taking down the drugs gang within it. But instead of the drugs gang, he finds his own bleeding out body and a ghostly spirit guide called Daisy May. And Daisy May is there to recruit him to the Dying Squad, who are a spectral police force who solve crimes that their flesh and blood brethren cannot. So Joe reluctantly agrees to partner with Daisy May and faces threats from both the living and the dead if he's going to solve the murder and find the killer before they kill again.
Fantastic. Such a great high concept idea. And the first of 3 books, I understand, so there's more on the way?
It is, yeah. I'm writing the 3rd as we speak.
Excellent. Now, whenever we have someone on here, debut novel, There's always a temptation to say, "Yay, overnight success," but it's not the case, is it, Adam? This has been you've taken a long road to publication, as many authors have, and I want to talk about the steps you've taken to get this deal, because there's the Curtis Brown course, there's an editorial report, there's all sorts of stuff. But you are a filmmaker as well. You've been started out as a filmmaker. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I guess I'd describe it as a leisurely stroll barefoot over broken glass for about 20 years to get to this point. So I am a filmmaker originally. I wrote and directed 4 features before I started writing novels. And then that's what I do as a day job now in terms of more commercial work and corporate work. But I've had, like, I guess, micro film success. So the first film sold to Netflix, but this was before Netflix was Netflix. I mean, it was like really early days. Like, I hadn't heard of them when it sold. And I think if you got a good cat video at this point with a beginning, middle, and end, you'd have probably been able to sell it into Netflix when my first film got taken on. But it was, it was a real passion of mine. Like, each one got a little bit bigger, I guess, in scale. And then the fourth one, Kid Gloves, was kind of the first one I was truly happy with, and that had a good festival run. It got well reviewed, and it won a few awards. And that kind of took me to a bit of a crossroads on it, really, because I was making these films myself. I was self-funding them, getting some crowdfunding, but mostly self-funding. And I realized to be able to kind of go to the level that I really aspired to be at, I had to change tack. So I was making a documentary series on inspirational figures, and I interviewed this one guy who had applied to be on this mission to go to Mars, but it was a one-way mission. That was the thing. So there was this venture capital company that were doing, I think it's called Mars One or something like that. They've since gone bust. But their idea was to send a crew to Mars, and then that was it. That the cost of Mars is getting back. So this was, they would stay there, they would do research, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was a fascinating concept, and it'd make a great film, but it's not one I could ever do, in the kind of budgets I was talking about. So I had a bash at writing a novel. It took me about 18 months. It turned out okay. I worked with an agent for a little bit on it. That didn't really pan out. But then I wrote a second novel, and that's the one that I worked with on the Curtis Brown creative course.
Right. Excellent.
And that was a 6-month selective course with 15 other people. And to me, that was one of the points of me originally moving to London, doing a course like that. It was kind of, to get into central London, 15 people you don't know, kind of justify your existence a little bit, with each kind of lesson, and fight your corner about, and learn and adapt and learn how to edit and all those sort of things. And so I would say that was quite transformative in terms of how I wrote and where I thought I could go with it all.
You were already an established screenwriter by that point. So you'd written stuff, you'd filmed stuff, which I always say to people, that process on its own teaches you an awful lot. So what was it? What were the key lessons that you learned? The key differences, I guess, between writing your screenplays and writing a novel?
Well, definitely the difference, certainly in terms of the way that I would write a screenplay, was that it was more an instruction book for me, because I knew I was going to be the one that made it and often shot it. It was almost kind of like a cookbook of the recipes and the ingredients that I knew I had to make. Whereas obviously when you're writing a novel, the person you're writing for is making that film in their own head. So it's kind of got to be a lot more evocative. You've got to throw in the odd description. It can't just all be, I'm not a massive one for sprawling descriptions, but you need to paint the scene, place the tone and give the reader something to work with. So I think that was the big difference, was sort of you're enabling the person to make the film in their own head. Mm-hmm. I took a lot from it. I mean, I took a lot from the filmmaking process. There were aspects that I was able to use. So for instance, if I'm making a film or a music video or anything like that, then I'll kind of create a mood board, first of all, to just kind of give the client or the actors or the artist or whatever an idea of the tone and the look that I'm going for. So instead of doing that for the book, I actually created a couple of trailers, just kind of spec trailers, use royalty-free images, use royalty-free music. And they were kind of a really good touchstone that I could then refer back to if I felt I was getting lost with the tone. And music is also like a hugely important part of writing to me and making films. So I think of like the second Dying Squad book, there were two bits were killing me. I couldn't get right. So I spliced two music tracks together. Like one of them was from the Heat heist scene. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Oh,
fantastic,
yeah.
Fantastic scene. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's perfect.
I wrote a lot of Robot Overlords to that, and
did you?
Listeners won't know this, but behind Adam now is a Daft Punk poster as well. So Daft Punk's Tron soundtrack. Oh man, that was a big influence from Robot Overlords as well. So yeah, that kind of electronica. Yeah, I know where you're coming from.
That's a good influence to be. Yeah, and so I spliced that in another track together and just created a 23-minute score that I wrote to. Well, I wrote to the beats of it, and I'm not deviating from this score, and it worked. You know, it told me how to write it. And there was another one that was like the end of it I just couldn't get right. And the Seven score, which is like amazing film, stands up so well, that film. The bit where they're driving to the desert where they've got John Doe and like the tension builds and builds and builds. I thought that's the track I need. So I made myself not right, and everywhere I went I listened to that track. When I finally finished that scene, I listened to it over 800 times, which probably earned Howard Shore about 30p in terms of streaming revenue. But it really kind of sparked something in me, and your music tells me how to write it a lot of the time, I find.
That's it. Really, really interesting, because I've had to stop listening to music while I write recently. But Apple are doing this thing where they do compilations of the tracks you listen to the most over the last few years. And when I was writing Back to Reality, it was mostly Pixar soundtracks and La La Land, because it was set in LA. But certainly for writing the end of Magic, there was a lot of Jeremy Soule's score for Skyrim.
Okay, that's a great score. Yeah.
So you can kind of, I guess you must have, playlists that are the book for you, that will take you back to that moment. So was the music kind of rewiring your brain? Is that what you were using it to do?
It was a little bit, yeah. I mean, I do feel like your music will always tell you a narrative. And right from an early age, I would kind of listen to a track and kind of imagine my own story to it a lot of the time. And it's certainly like when I've been doing music videos, because I tend to kind of, if I'm doing a music video, I try to do like a short film out of it rather than just a performance video, because that's what I feel kind of really interests me. So it's like a little short film. And that was a great way of actually really being able to write tight, because you've got to tell a story in 3 minutes with a music video, and it's got to be a beginning, middle and end. And each shot has got to make you want to look at the next shot. I mean, our attention spans are so screwed. I mean, you've got 30 seconds most of the time to keep someone. So that was that economy of scale in terms of how long you've got to get the reader or the viewer's attention, kind of held me in good stead too.
Very good. Excellent. So you're doing this Curtis Brown course, and you're putting together a book that you think is ready to go out, but you don't do the usual thing of going straight out to agents. You then commission a reader's report, an editorial report. Is that right?
Well, it was actually a little bit more on that. So okay. I wrote the second book, and I, rightly or wrongly, I believed in this book so much. I thought, there's no way they're not going to sign me off this book. There's no way they're not going to sign me off this book.
Mr. D will love that bit of self-belief. He really will.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a fine line between arrogance and delusion and self-belief. I find you need all three to get you through.
True.
But I really strongly believed in it. And they did on the course. They were kind of champions for me, and they were really really helpful. And I did get some full manuscript requests from Curtis Brown, but in the end, it didn't end up getting taken on by an agent, which I'm not ashamed to say. I mean, it was one of the worst bits of my life. I really couldn't believe hadn't got sold, because self-belief is a great thing. And I would have given up a long time ago if I didn't have the vats of self-belief. But when the world doesn't quite go to the way you think it's going to go, then it can kind of throw everything a little bit. You're off your axes. And I just couldn't. I thought, man, I can't do a lot better than this, because I thought it was really strong, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it was a great lesson, because it teaches you it doesn't really matter how good something is in terms of getting an agent selling a book. It's also got to be strongly commercial. Like, they've got to be able to see that it fits into this market here. Because, a big thing is always when you're submitting, it's like, where do you see this in the market? And I was submitting, I thought, oh man, I don't know. I mean, I was lacking in comparisons to say, if you enjoyed the work of blah, 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 you will love this. And that was difficult. And I guess that was probably should have been the first sign that this might not actually be as easy as you think it's going to be. But I didn't let it deter me. So I started writing something else straight after, which was good and bad. I mean, in a way, I hated that third book that I wrote all throughout it, because I resented the fact that it was like another spec book. It was a little bit like getting dumped on your wedding day and then going on a Tinder date that same evening, right? Writing that book. But I'm glad I did it, because you need to kind of work it through your system. I got another couple of full manuscript requests, but ultimately no go. And which brings us to the Dying Squad. Sorry, listeners, it's taken a while to get there, but it brings us to the Dying Squad. And the Dying Squad, I feel, was like a gift from somewhere, because I genuinely just dreamt the first chapter. Just dreamt it one night, sat down the next day, wrote it down, thought, this could be decent. And despite it being a torturous, slow process from going to that point, from me starting to write it, to getting an agent, to signing with Gollancz, was, I think, 10.5 months.
Wow. So
it was really fast at the end. And when I sent it out on the first day I sent out submission, I got 5 full manuscript requests within like less than 24 hours. So it was obvious that there was like something in this that was kind of commercial and like they thought, had potential. So at that point I thought, maybe it'll be all right.
What do you think was different about, I mean, you said you dreamt it, but do you dream ideas a lot? What was different about this one to the other books, the unpublished books that came before?
I think it's a decent concept that you can kind of communicate in a sentence. Detective has to solve his own murder. Like, it's pretty simple and it's communicable, and like you want to know a few things, I think, based off it, like, well, how does he, if he's dead, what does that mean? It kind of suggests a bigger world, I guess. And as a concept to sell, it combines crime, which is obviously like an enormous genre, and urban fantasy, I guess you'd call it, which is also massive as well. So it potentially appeals to a few different readers. Right.
But do you think, the road to publication, or the road to being inspired to write this book, the unpublished books that came before it, they kind of all feed into that, don't they? You wouldn't have got there there wouldn't have been any triumph without the struggle, is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely not. No, I mean, you can't, you kind of kid yourself that, I've always been my writing hasn't got any better throughout, but clearly it does. Like I definitely as well, after the disappointment of the second book, I kind of conditioned myself, so right, I'm going to write a book a year till I get an agent. And, with filmmaking, I have quite a lot of time free in the week compared to anyone else doing a 9 to 5. It isn't a 9 to 5 profession. So I felt like it would have been wasting the opportunity I had and that other people don't have if I can't write a book a year. I can definitely do that. I've conditioned myself to do that. So I think by the time it got to the Dying Squad, I was pretty tight on structure. It was a story that made sense. I could finish it well. I think the elements were in place, I guess.
Excellent. And you target yourself, I read somewhere you target yourself with the daily word count, don't you? You are a write every day kind of guy. Tell us about that.
If I'm doing the school run or there and back. I've got like 6 hours to play with. So in my opinion, everyone's different, but for me personally, there's no excuse not to do between 1,500 and 2,000 words in that time. Like, I know I can write quickly. Some days are better than others. I'm sure you know yourself. Some days you nail it in 2 hours. Some days it's like every word is being plucked out of you with a blunt spoon. But I know in that time, I can hit that target. And I think everyone's different. To me, it's important to hit the targets, not because I've got a date in mind that I'm trying to finish it, just because that's how my brain works. I'm a list guy and I'm a deadline guy. I need that sort of thing.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So lists. Have you got a list of books beyond this trilogy? Have you got a list of other things that you want to achieve? Or do you set goals in that way?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to get into screenwriting as well. I'd love to have something on the big screen like that you have yourself. I've not ruled out quite like a crack at directing one of them at some point in the future. That was
going to be my last question, actually. And will you be up for directing the Netflix series of The Dying Squad? So yeah, you would be up for that.
If they really, really twisted my arm, I could be probably persuaded to do it. There is something that I'm working on past The Dying Squad that was always kind of like a rough idea I had. If I was going to do another film, I'd love to have a crack at that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a little bit less massive in scale than The Dying Squad. I'd love to have a crack at that, but we'll see. It'll be one of those things that if it happens, it would be an amazing opportunity, but we shall see.
Wouldn't it be more fun to have someone else direct The Dying Squad? And you can stand there on set going...
So you're picking that lens. God, that's a bold choice. Bold choice, and you got
because directors love that.
I imagine I would be the most popular guy on set if I just kind of stood behind the DP going, "Oh, that's a brave angle to go with. I wouldn't have gone with that, but bravo." Yeah, no, I know how annoying that is when I'm on set and doing something. So I will not be doing that. Okay. I will stand very quietly in the corner and happily have people bring me coffees all day. I will settle for that.
And having spoken to Kirsty, if I recall, requires silence to write. She gets into the zone, whereas you're playing loud music. So does this mean there won't be a day when you two co-write a massive blockbuster together? Is that going to happen? Can we look forward to that?
I think it depends on how much you want to get divorced. I think if we decided that we wanted to get divorced, we have worked together before, and like we got together because she'd written a play, which I always had a small part acting in, but I was making a film for it. So that's kind of how we got to know each other. So we're lucky in some ways. So like we have our relationship right from the start has been we critique each other's work. And we're kind of good with that. I mean, she would say that she is much, much better at being critiqued than I am. And she's 100% right. 100% right. She is definitely better at taking criticism than I am. But we do, in all seriousness, like it is a really great resource that we have of each other, being able to kind of, she's always the first person that reads anything I write, always. In terms of working together, we did a short film together, and it was a brutal experience. It was. I mean, it was terrible. And then we did do a web series together, which was better, but it's too much. It's too much. I'm sure some couples could do it. We are not one of those couples. I will settle for being lucky enough to have someone that's, a brilliant editor, and like she's got an editor's eye and can like say, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. It's a hell of a resource to have.
This is me and Mr. D agreed never to write again for the sake of our friendship. So that's
it's sensible. It's sensible.
I know where you're coming from. Now, you produced a fantastic trailer for The Dying Squad. Now, you talked. Is that one that you put together from? What was it? Free online resources and stuff like that? Where did you find that stuff? Because it's something we're asked about a lot in the Bestseller Experiment group on Facebook. And where do we find these things? How do we put these things together? And any top tips for making an author trailer?
No worries. Yeah. Well, in terms of where I got almost all of those images from, it was a website called Video Blocks, which is a subscription site. I think it's about £60 a year, which for me is like massively justifiable because, you know, it's my profession. The music was more expensive because the music's really good. And that was from Music Bed, who charge more. I think that's about £40 a song. But you can get cheaper ones than that. I think Audio Jungle are a good one. They do like, you can get something for like $15, $16 on there. In terms of making it, I mean, shorter is better every time. I would say both those trailers I did were about right on the limit of how long you'd want it to be. And the second one was a little bit longer, but it was different because it had text on the screen because it had like quotes from people and stuff. So as long as it goes back to the music videos is like each shot should make you want to watch the next shot. And I think what you'd be going for is you're obviously not going to be able to replicate your book with these trailers. You just want to try and get the tone right. You want to get the atmosphere right of the book. So if it's a romantic comedy, there's not much point in having kind of like a pulsing dramatic score. You know, you want something a little bit lighter, probably. But yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. You're just trying to get across the tone. And if you've got like blurbs from people or good reviews, definitely put those on, but don't make it more than a minute.
Excellent.
Keep to a minute.
Top tip. We'll put links to Adam's trailer in the show notes, folks, so you can check that out. Well, Adam, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. The Dying Squad, folks, is out now, so go grab your copy. And maybe one day, it would be just marvellous just to get both you and Kirsty on the podcast and see if you can survive that.
That'd be fine. She would get annoyed because I would try and talk over her, but apart from that, it would be absolutely fine. And can I just say, like, I've been listening to this show from the start. There were a lot of tough times where I imagined one day that I would be on it. So today was a really big deal. Thank you.
Oh, our absolute pleasure, Adam. And thank you so much for coming on, and speak to you again soon.
Cheers. Thank you, Mark. Bye.
What are your writing dreams? Finishing that book, quitting the day job, becoming a best-selling author? Well, over 4 years, we've studied the advice of over 300 best-selling authors who've collectively sold over 500 million books. And we are excited to announce the Bestseller Academy. If you're ready to take your writing to the next level with accountability, craft, and coaching, your bestseller dreams are now only a click away. To find out more and apply, visit bestsellerexperiment.com/academy. That's bestsellerexperiment.com/academy.
Adam talked about self-belief there, which is something I know you have a lot of in abundance, don't you, dear?
No, well, it depends. It depends what I'm doing. If it's something that I'm really comfortable with, so ringing or something to do with the garden, then I am, yes, of course I could do this. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to writing a novel, I was like, can I do this? I don't know if I can do this. This is just, it was completely and utterly out of my comfort zone. And it was only because you said to me, go on, you can do this, you know. And when I wrote the first draft, I was just, and I'd finished it, and I was just like, oh, actually, I did do it. And then I cried because I was I was like, I finished. I came down. Do you remember? I came down here.
I do remember that, yeah.
And you were like, why are you crying? I've just finished my book. Which was really quite weird. And I don't cry anything really. So
I do.
Yes. And once I'd done the first draft, I actually thought, maybe I can do this. It could be crap. And I kept saying to you, it's going to be absolute rubbish. I know it's going to be rubbish. And you were like, it most probably won't be. And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. No. Definitely wasn't. You know, like any first draft, I think there's a room for improvement.
Oh, yeah.
I've just done a very, very scrappy first draft of a novel. So, that's... yeah, we all do. I know we've had one or two naysayers on that who get it right first time, but they're outliers. And but yeah, no, it's so you're on what, the third draft now?
I think so. I've got about a couple of dozen, maybe 3 dozen notes left to do, and then I will give it back to you. But at the moment, they're all really quite small ones. There's nothing to sort of a huge change. So sometimes when I'll do them, and then I'll come across a note that you've written, and I'm like, no, I can't. I just can't figure out how to do it. So I leave that one. Then I go to work. I mean, gosh, if my clients knew what was going through my brain, I mean, I would never work again. It's I'm sort of gardening with my music on, and I'm thinking, okay, well, yeah, and then when I was trying to figure out, it's a whodunit. So, you know,
with a murder.
And when I was thinking about how a person could get murdered, and I was thinking, oh, well, they could do that, and then they could bash, they could do this, and the other. If the police ever went through my Google search, they would be horrified. So I'm not quite sure how I would explain it, but the things that if I can't, there's no point, if you've got a note, there's no point slogging through it if you're not in the right frame of mind to do it. Sometimes it's like when you were doing an exam, you go, I'll leave that question and I'll go on to other ones, and you sort out other ones, and then you'll come back to that one later or the following day or whatever, and then you'll go, okay, I know how to sort that one out, and then that's how I do it. Is that wrong?
No, there's no wrong. There's no right or wrong. No, that sounds perfectly logical. I mean, I do the same thing. I talk about the edit triage, which is where you get when you get your document back with all the notes.
Oh yeah, all the easy ones first.
Yeah, and then just think about the bigger picture. You know, just think about what are the easy fixes? What are the ones that are going to create big shifts? And I mean, yours structurally was very, very solid. So there weren't any big structural changes.
No. I mean, when I was first writing it, and that bit at the very beginning wasn't in there, and I said to you, because we have these little discussions when we're sort of having a cup of tea or in the kitchen, and I said to you, so if I put this bit at the very beginning, and then you said yes, and then that will grab everybody's attention, and I wasn't sure whether I could do that, whether it was the right thing to do or not, but having spoken to you and you said yes it is, and I was like, because I started to write this after we saw Knives Out at the cinema the first time. That was the thing that I thought, actually, I can write one. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. And I've always loved Columbo. And when you watch Columbo, you know who's going to die. You know who's the murderer right from the outset. And it's actually watching Columbo figure it all out. And I thought, well, I don't want you to know who's done it, but I want you to know who's died, and then you can try and figure it, work it through.
Well, the other thing Columbo does so well is character.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a brilliant character, and the guest murderer or whatever is always a good character as well. And your stuff is very good on character too. So, cool. Now, what made you, after you came out of Knives Out and you thought, I'm going to write a book, obviously writing a book is a big task for anyone. You did the 200 word a day.
Yes.
I mean, Adam was talking about writing habits, how he targets himself every day, and is a list person as well. I know you love a list.
I have to write lists, otherwise I forget things.
Yeah. So what did the 200 day thing work for you?
Blimey, yeah. I didn't start it on the 1st of January. I started it on the 2nd of January.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
Because you were nagging me on the 1st of January.
I don't nag. You not nag.
I had lots to do on that, and I was thinking no, and I decided that I would start on the 2nd, and that 200 words a day actually was very useful. I don't think I ever wrote 200 words. It was always an awful lot more. And it was to write 200 words, because I'd been thinking about it, what was going to happen next. the day before. When I came to write it, I was like, okay, right, this is what, and okay, this is it. So it was already in my brain as to what was going to happen to the story. So
you had it all up there.
I had it all up.
You didn't outline or anything beforehand?
No, I had no, you know, like you have with your little whiteboard or anything. No, it was all up in my brain, which I suppose is how it stayed in there. I have no idea.
Quite crowded in there, isn't it?
It's incredibly crowded in there. There's all sorts going around in my brain.
Which is why you write lists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But when you're weeding in the cold or pruning or something, and it always goes through in your brain, and I was just constantly thinking about it when I was gardening. Murdering people.
Wow.
You know, my horry knife, you know. Vicious little thing that is. So yeah, it was all, the next step was in my brain. In my brain.
Excellent. Okay. And lists. I mean, we joke about your list because when you go out for the day, you leave us a list.
I have to, otherwise you don't do anything.
No, that's not fair. We do things. We just like to know what needs to be done.
Yes.
And you are the project manager of this house.
I am. Oh, yes.
So, and we are but your humble workers.
Of course you are. Kneel before me.
Later, darling. So you like it. Did you use lists when you were writing? Were you listing characters or ideas or anything like that?
I think they're still upstairs, actually. I had lots of little pieces of paper which I would scribble things on, and I would write down how I don't want to give too much away, you know, how the murder happened, how the body got hidden before this certain person walked past, and all of that. And then that person would go and evidence would be cleared up and back. And then as I was going through, as I was writing it, and then I was thinking of something, and I thought, I need to put...
Don't bang the table.
Oh, sorry, don't bang the table. Sorry. And then I was thinking, I need to put a little bit of information in there earlier on, so that, like a wet path, because you know a hose is used to clear up any blood. And I thought, I thought I've got to put in, when one character arrives, she goes, "It didn't rain last night. Why is the path all wet?" And just a little niggle in there, which as you're reading it, you go, it's like a throwaway line, but it's only when you get later on you go, I hope people go, So yes, it was full of those. And also I drew a plan of the allotment site.
Right, yes.
And I put where it would be and how everybody's plot was and where the gate was and all of that and who was on what plot, so that as I was coming, and I had little sticky notes with people's names on. So if they were on the site, then I would stick them on the bottom of the computer. There.
Oh yeah, look.
Where
the notes.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's like they're there, and then no, they won't be there today because they don't come down during the week, so they would be put to one side.
Right.
So yeah, and that's how I would do it. So I would know who was there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Adam says he writes to music, whereas his partner Kirsty prefers silence. Can you write to music?
No. It has to be quiet. Yeah. Otherwise I can't, because otherwise I sing along to the song. So no, I have to be upstairs, and I have to be on the computer, and the door isn't closed; it's kind of pushed to. And bless him, Kai always knocks on the door anyway. And it has to be quiet, and I can't have music.
Can I just explain? Kai is our daughter's boyfriend who lives with us. This isn't some lodger that we have. No. Okay. Now we've had writing couples. I mean, Adam said that he and Kirsty, for the sake of their marriage, won't be writing together. But we had Josie Lloyd on before, who writes very successfully with her husband Emlyn Rees.
Right.
Do you think we'll ever write anything together, or will we drive each other mad?
I don't think so, because I think we write completely different genres.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know where to start. You write about what you know and what you find interesting, and you wouldn't find anything to do with allotments interesting.
I like your book, though.
Well, I know you do. But no, I don't.
It's very good.
Oh, thank you. I don't think so. I mean, it would be nice to.
I mean, we've sort of, when I was first writing plays, and you were in the plays, and I wrote roles specifically for you, there was a collaboration there, wasn't there? Because you would tell me if stuff didn't make sense. And if it sounded like a bloke writing a woman.
Yeah.
You know, so you'd pull me up on stuff there.
Yeah, unusually tall boy, yeah.
Yeah, and the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've sort of done that.
Yeah, but a long time ago. I don't know. I mean, it might be nice to.
I'm sure I could write a cosy murder mystery. Anyway, not yet. I've got too much to write.
Yeah, and I've still got another. Once this one's done, I've got another 2, and I've got in my brain
another 2.
Well, yeah, I want you. You told me to do a trilogy.
Oh, okay, I know you had another one lined up. I didn't know you had 3.
No, yeah, there's 2 in my head. And so I know the basic outline of the second one and the third one, and I know how it's gonna pan out.
Okay. Adam says that Kirsty reads what he writes, and she's a very good critique and gives him very good notes. You wouldn't do that with mine, would you?
A play, yes, because it's short.
Tell people about your reading habits, Claire.
Well, I get up very early. Which one? This one or that one? It doesn't matter. I get up very early in the morning and I work incredibly hard. And I'm usually very knackered when... Am I allowed to say that word?
Yeah.
Very, very knackered. You won't have me on again. Nope. When I get home from work. And then obviously I have dinner to do and chickens to put to bed and baths to have and things like that, or a bath and things like that. So I'm usually asleep or nearly asleep by about 9 o'clock in the evening. So to read a novel or a book actually takes me a very long time, because I don't have time during the day to sit down and read. No,
you read novels on holiday, don't you?
Yes.
And we haven't had a proper holiday for about 2.5, 3 years.
3 years. So no, so I don't, and I can justify sitting down by a pool reading a book. That time I can justify. Otherwise, if I'm at home, I can't justify it at home because there's always something to do.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I've got cake to make or, something.
Can't get in the way of that.
So it's, that's the only time I can read a book.
No, fair enough. That's
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. I mean, you did read Back to Reality, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
It did take me a while.
It did take you a while.
It took me a while.
Got there in the end.
But I did get there in the end. So, yes. And I do most of my major writing when it's not gardening season, because I can't do it when it's gardening season because there's too much to do out in the garden.
But it's interesting you've started editing recently, even though it's height of summer now.
But that's a short thing to do.
Yeah.
It's easy, it's easy, but it's an easier thing to do than sit down and get focused.
Yeah, so maybe the pattern is you write in the winter.
Yeah.
And then
edit in the summer. Yeah.
Okay.
That seems to be, that works at the moment.
Yeah, that does work.
Yeah.
And I read and edit your books.
You do.
For free.
I know, because you're so lovely.
Yeah. Right, okay. We should probably wrap that up there. Well, I hope you found that useful, listeners. Normal service will be resumed when Mr. D returns from camping, presuming the bears haven't got him or anything like that. Look, if you want to get in touch, drop us a line. Drop us a line at bestsellerexperiment.com. If you go to the website, there's a contact tab. We read every email. Find us on social media. On Facebook, we're Bestseller Experiment. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at BestsellerXP. A big thank you to Adam for speaking to us today. And a big thank you to you for listening. And the biggest thanks of all, as always, to the people who keep this podcast going, to our patron, not you, to our patrons and Academates on the Bestseller Academy, and to everyone who listens to this podcast. And yes, I suppose, thank you for standing in as a guest this week.
It's all right, my darling.
Thank you very much. Okay. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Until next week, it's goodbye from
Claire Burgess. Bye-bye.
And it's goodbye from Mark. I'm Mark 1 this week. I am. Bye.